So even in this age of digital production, not all film sounds are created by a computer. In fact, you'd be surprised at how important Foley work is. So what's a Foley? It's a sound effect as a Foley artist creates to replace or enhance the original sound made during shooting. And it ranges from just about anything to footsteps to a squeaky door in a horror flick and much, much more. But until now, this crucial part of post-production has been kept behind the scenes. Here's the trailer for a new film called Actors of Sound, a Foley artist's documentary. Please take a look.
Most people listen to sound. You know, the rare individual can hear what they want to represent sort of the sound that they have in their head. And there's a huge difference between listening and hearing. So Foley really becomes, you know, a place where people who hear sound can actually perform this magic that supports the visuals, the information coming in through our eyes. And it's truly a creative process.
Recording.
Flock of bird wings? Maybe.
To be a good Foley man, you have to transform yourself to the character on the screen.
They didn't know what to call you. I got credit for the walker.
And in those days, in 57, 58, 59, 60, we would do our own Foley.
Ross Taylor turned out to be what we call the man with the golden feet.
Footsteps. They have to be there, of course. I mean, what Foley is doing is in a large part is adding that natural bass to a film.
Foley is a performance art. You need to act out the character you see on screen.
None of the sounds that we do are pre-recorded. They're all created organically on a stage.
We're enhancing the performance of what you're seeing in the film. Oftentimes, we're recreating it with a different kind of props because the prop in the movie will not necessarily make that sound.
Here's a few things we use exclusively on Breaking Bad. These are the great rubber boots, the famous mask. And they have these suits.
I have props from when I was in high school.
My creaky bed, for all the lovemaking scenes.
You make certain scene that was dead before and it suddenly comes alive.
The art of Foley, as we knew it, is changing.
We are the last of the decidedly low-tech elements in movie making. We're basically doing the same thing they did on radio mystery shows 60 years ago. We're doing the same thing. We're even using some of the same props.
Years ago, when I first started, they spoke of the sound droid. It's going to make Foley guys obsolete. You're going to be out of a job.
They had their Foley artists record for months and months and months of this kind of footstep and that kind of footstep, every possible shoe on every possible surface, every possible way, and they digitized all this. And it worked, they got it working.
How does that digital sound equate to being something done live?
All the stuff that we used to create and make live are now being cut out of library. Will it work in the future? I don't know.
When we worked on Gangs of New York, Martin Scorsese wanted to hear the sound of the blood in the streets. We needed to make it sound bloody. It was an intense scene in the movie. Can the machine see the emotion of that actor on screen?
Take the human element out of what we're doing, and it's sound editing. If you can really add to whatever that scene is, you've done your work.
Here with us now in the studio is the Brooklyn-based filmmaker who set out to give a face to these unseen but widely heard heroes. We want to welcome the producer and director of Actors of Sound, Lalo Molina.
Hi, thank you.
Hey. I am so excited. I got goosebumps watching that because I'm such a movie-aholic. So what inspired you to focus on this one very important detail of movie making?
You know, the film has always been a big part of my life, you know. Since I was a kid, I love films, and I was always intriguing in how they do the sound effects, you know. One of my favorite genres is horror, you know, so it's like I was always intrigued in how they do this bone breaking and all these sound effects. And when I was in film school, by accident, I stumbled into a Foley stage in Universal Studios, actually, so it's the first.
Cool. Okay, how boring would a movie be if we didn't have Foley artists and we had to sort of, you know, use the original sound that they sort of shot when they're shooting a scene? How boring would a movie be if you didn't do what you do?
It will be pretty boring, I think, because, you know, they recreate regular sounds, you know, like from footsteps to clothes rustlings, you know, like a scene where you have dishes, you know, the clinking of the dishes, you know, to a bomb explosion, you have the debris, you know, that sand, all those particles, it's all organically created on the stage, so it will be a little empty, I think.
Right. So we saw in the clip that you interviewed several people.
Yeah.
Who was represented in your interview process, and how did those folks get into the Foley business?
Well, we have interviews with Foley artists here in New York and Los Angeles, and we have in India, in Bollywood, and we're going to do 2 more interviews this month, actually, and in Finland, and hopefully in China and Argentina. And it's very fascinating. You know, there's no school, you know, for Foley. So all of them, in a way, they by accident they become Foley artists. Most of them, they have careers as performers. You know, one of them was a magician, dancers, you know, drummers, musicians. Everything that has to be, you know, hand and eye coordination. I think it has written, you know, actors as well. They fall into Foley. You know.
Okay, well, there's so many different, you know, you can go on the internet and YouTube. There's so many different videos about, you know, Foley artists now. And, you know, it's something that people didn't know about before, but, you know, people, you know, there is interest in it now. You know, what specifically is this documentary going to bring to the table? It's going to be that wow moment where people are going to be like, you know, I really didn't know about that history.
You know, Foley, it's named after Jack Foley. Started in Universal Studios, and back in the day, you know, it was when they started, you know, it was a secret. You know, the industry wanted to keep it as a secret, and through time, you know, when you go to the cinema, you see Foley artists, the credit, you know, so they have been behind the scenes, and I think with this film, it's time to you know, put them in the foreground.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, you have a please go
so
ahead.
you have a Kickstarter campaign.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and how people can contribute.
Well, you know, we have a Kickstarter campaign. We are asking more than half of the funds are going to copyrights. As you see, we are using a lot of film clips with different films, and that's basically we are creating a fair use case to be able to use. Fair use, basically what it is it defends you as a filmmaker if you're proving a point and you're using that clip to demonstrate, you know. And also, you know, post-production, like color correction. I shot this film, I started shooting in 2011, you know, 4 years, 3 different cameras. We have a lot of archival footage, you know, it needs a lot of color correction. And of course, sound mixing and Foley.
Now, the people that you have involved in the documentary, can you tell us some of the projects maybe that they have worked on, or some of the movies they may have worked on that we may be familiar with? Or,
well, I have Foley artists that done all the Martin Scorsese, all the Coen Brothers films. You know, I have a Foley artist that did E.T., the Extraterrestrial, Back to the Future.
That's great.
You know,
well, that would be a fun one.
Dark Knight, you know, Interstellar, you name it. They're all of them. She did Birdman. I have one of the Foley artists that she did the Birdman. all the shows, you know, Breaking Bad, The Walking Dead.
You know, even when I was watching the lead-in video, a lot of these artists are older artists. You know, do you find that this is something that, you know, new people are being drawn to? And how are the older artists, the backgrounds they came into Foley with, how does that differ from the new breed of Foley artists?
That's a very good point.
Because technology has changed a lot. So.
Yeah, that's, well, the main conflict of the documentary is how sound libraries are eventually gonna replace Foley artists. That's like the main. But it's very interesting you say, also part of that money that we're raising is to go to Los Angeles back to and shoot the last chapter of the documentary, that is Hope. So we want to interview all these aspiring young Foley artists that they're gonna starting their careers, you know. Cool. And also we have an interview with the granddaughter of Jack Foley.
Awesome.
That she has all these anecdotes, more personal, you know, about the man behind the legend.
Right. So you've interviewed a lot of people. Have you come across any people of color that are involved in this as a part of the industry? Because it seems.
Yeah, it's we interview a couple in India, you know, mostly, but not in
the U.S.
One of our producers was even saying, he said, you know, historically it was a job for women, you know, dancers and different things like that. But even when we watched the clip, you know, it was a lot of it was gentlemen. So you know, do you think that this industry is changing? Is it?
It's changing, definitely. We one of the interviews we had the first woman Foley artist, and she tells all these anecdotes how hard it was, you know, to break into the business. It was a boys' club, you know. And,
Fair enough. And tomorrow you have a Kickstarter event, or is that today?
Tonight. I want to invite you
performance
guys.
And everything.
Yeah, we have a live performance, and it's basically we're going to celebrate Foley, you know. And
Great.
Everything
Where is
Foley, like put a glass
it's
down.
in Williamsburg.
Oh, here we go. Yep.
It's in Williamsburg, and some of the guys that you saw in the clip, they're going to be there, like some of the Foley artists from there, and hopefully. And I got you some T-shirts.
Yay! We love T-shirts.
So
and how do our viewers find the Kickstarter? If they can't make it over tonight, how can they go online?
You can visit
actorsofsound.com
and Kickstarter Actors of Sound. You can look in our Facebook page, Actors of Sound Facebook, and Twitter, #ActorsOfSound.
Yeah, you know, the thing about New York City is such a vibrant film industry, but you know, so many people, like you said, you know, aren't aware of Foley and the opportunities that it does present. And even though the industry is changing, there's still a lot of opportunities, especially here in New York City. So we want to thank you so much for letting us know about Foley.
This is great.
Thank you.
Great documentary.
Thank you.